距离1月20号新任美国总统的就职典礼正式举行，已经剩下没有几天。但是不止现任总统川普还是不愿意承认自己败选的事实，川普的支持者也不想要就此放弃。美国时间1月6号，就在美国国会清点选举人团票，准备认证民主党籍的候选人拜登就是美国下任总统之际，一批川普的支持者突然之间强行闯入美国国会，打破门窗，占领了主席台，高喊川普胜选。美国国会认证拜登胜选的程序也因此被打断。华府警方随即就出动，立刻封锁了美国国会，并且疏散在场的所有议员，甚至还动用国民兵发射了闪光弹和催泪弹清场，协助平乱。但是警民大规模冲突已经造成4人死亡，其中1名女子还是被警方开枪击中了胸口，当场不治。这场全球最瞩目的民主选举已经是日渐失控，染上了斑斑血迹。
这是发生在民主大国美国华府的情景。川普总统一声令下，来自全美各地川普的支持者攻陷了美国国会。
We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol, and we're going to try and give.The Democrats are hopeless.
从美国当地时间1月6号下午开始，华府的新闻就不断更新。从川普支持者冲入国会，到副总统彭斯及临时议长格雷斯利等人被护送进地下道撤离，国会警察持枪戒备，然后第1名川粉中弹身亡。这形同第3世界无政府状态的事情，居然在美国上演，而始作俑者就是川普本人。
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
始终不肯认输的川普，为求选举翻盘，已经到了无所不用其极的地步。但即使是这段在电话里跟乔治亚州州务卿讨票的过程被公诸于世，都没有动摇铁杆川粉的心。
As of 9:30 today, we have made in excess of 52 arrests, 4 arrests for carrying pistols without licenses, 1 arrest for possession of prohibited weapon, 47 arrests related to curfew violations and unlawful entry. 1 adult female and 2 adult males appear to have suffered from separate medical emergencies, which resulted in their deaths.
现在多国领袖已经公开谴责这起暴力事件。英国首相强生就在推特上表示，美国国会的冲突场面很可耻，应该要和平有序进行权力移交。加拿大外交部也表示，权力和平过渡对民主至关重要，将会关注事态的发展。法国外交部则表示，这次事件是对民主的严重攻击。而欧洲理事会主席米歇尔也在推特上发文，表示美国国会的场面令人震惊。CNN 更以耸动的政变字眼来形容这次脱序的乱象。至于号召川粉上街头的川普，是否有预料过场面会如此失控，无人知晓。但就连川普的亲信幕僚，包含选举顾问康威在内，都在当下敦促川普亲自出面发表声明，以平息暴乱。但川普却没有任何作为，直到传出流血事件后，才发表这样的谈话。
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country. This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel.But go home and go home in peace.
川普呼吁支持者回家，却再度重申， 这是一场遭到窃取的选举，看来拜登想要顺利在1月20号入主白宫，并没有那么容易。但至少拜登阵营目前还是获得了一个好消息，在乔治亚州的参议员选举，共和党丢了领先地位，未来拜登执政面临的政治纷乱至少可以再少一些。记者综合报道。
好的，现在跟我们在现场进行电话连线分析目前美国最新情势的是介文吉介大使。大使，我记得啊，上周在我们的节目当中，你就曾经聊到说，川普在推特上发布1月6号动员令。当时在台湾，我们得到的讯息非常的少，没有想到我们现在呢看到的画面却是如此的震撼，甚至传出有许多人的伤亡，就连华府都宣布要实施宵禁哦。美国的媒体 CNN 甚至还用了政变 coup 这个字来形容这场暴乱。介大使，你怎么看这场正在华府上演的脱序行为？
那么这在美国历史上可能我不晓得有没有前例了，好像是没有。不过本来美国政府就这次的选举，美国这个国家就是高度分裂的嘛。那再加上川普他不认输啊，那美国从来没有碰到一个不认输的总统，而且到最后川普他说：“哎，你们大家回家去，他也还没有认输。
是，
那不能忘记，就是说美国还有7600万选民是支持 Trump 的。
是，
就接下去，我认为这只是一个开始。
This Sunday, criminal conspiracy. Former President Donald Trump is criminally charged for trying to overturn the 2020 election and hold on to power.
The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies.
This is now the third criminal indictment against Donald Trump this year.
Every time they file an indictment, we go way up in the polls. One more indictment, and this election is closed out. Nobody has even a chance.
As the charges mount, will his support within the party continue to grow?
The fake charges put forth by the Biden sham, we call it a sham indictment, and the man that's doing it, I really believe he's mentally ill.
Will his top Republican rivals continue to rally around him or start to attack him? And can our democracy survive this critical and unprecedented challenge?
In the indictment where it says that Donald Trump said to Mike Pence at one point, "You're just too honest," what does he mean by that?
Well, we don't even know what the circumstances were of that conversation. We have no idea the context. But what we do know is everything that President Trump did was with the advice of lawyers and counsel. That's an absolute defense to a criminal case. Now, you may disagree about policy or disagree whether or not he made the right decision. But this is the first time that political speech has been criminalized. And they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he had corrupt intent, which they'll never do.
Are you concerned with the possibility, and it sounds like it's going to happen, that former Vice President Mike Pence is going to be a witness up against the former president?
We expect that he will be a witness, but what he has said consistently is he never thought that the president acted criminally.
He did say he protected the Constitution
Absolutely.
on that day.
And there's disagreement about what the Constitution means, and that's why you have constitutional scholars fighting this out. Mr. Pence is a lawyer. Not once did he say, Mr. Trump, what you're asking me is criminal. Don't do that.
You know what else the Fulton County Sheriff said, Brian, is that if when Donald Trump comes to court, assuming there's an indictment here, and some think it could come any day now, that he will not be treated differently than anyone else. It will not be like the process we saw in federal court, and he will get a mugshot. Is that appropriate?
I think there's a very strong argument that it's not appropriate and that, of course, he is different than anyone else. The security concerns that come with processing him are more significant than with just about anybody else.
If we could return to the fact that he was here in Washington just yesterday, where he did not have his mugshot taken, where he was not actually arrested, just arraigned. That was all before a magistrate judge who isn't going to be overseeing this case. The judge that will oversee it is Tanya Chutkan, and she has ruled against the former president in the past. She denied his request to block Congress from receiving executive branch documents related to January 6th. She's also given stricter sentences to January 6th defendants than prosecutors have asked for. Brian, can you just shed some light as to how important a single judge is in cases like this in terms of influencing the outcome for the defendant?
The district judge assigned to any criminal case is incredibly important. And as a defense attorney, that's one of the initial and most important things we focus on in any case. It's important both for sentencing purposes, and you mentioned this judge's reputation for being a difficult and tough sentencer, but it's also important because of how the district judge will be able to rule on motions and control the trial schedule and rule on what comes into evidence and what is kept out. And of course, this judge was a former public defender, and as a defense attorney, I'm usually glad to see a former defense attorney on the bench.
Okay, so if it's going to be a difficult defense to mount, it raises a question of what would happen in the hypothetical scenario that he is indeed found guilty of these crimes. His own former Attorney General, Bill Barr, was reacting to this indictment, talking about the possibility of a prison sentence. Listen to what he had to say.
I actually think this stuff about prison time is hyped. At the end of the day, even if he's convicted of both crimes, I don't think he will serve a day in prison. I think any president, Republican or Democrat, and any Department of Justice would basically cut some kind of deal so we don't have the spectacle of a former president in prison.
Brian, what's your take on that?
I tend to agree that it is incredibly problematic to have a former president in prison. There's an enormous security concern, not to mention the spectacle and the damage to the office and that would be felt by the public. And so it certainly is a possibility that we would see some sort of pardon or commutation or perhaps a successful appeal or other action that results in no prison time.
It's as opposed to a country club type of experience, Brian. That's not going to happen for Donald Trump, I presume.
Well, if there were prison time imposed here, then depending on the length of a sentence, then it could well be served at one of the places that is a little more tolerable than others.
John, can I ask you a couple of very simple, basic yes or no questions? Is there any condition under which the former president of the United States, your client, would accept a plea deal on these January 6th charges?
No.
Will you seek a motion to dismiss?
Absolutely, 100%.
When?
100%. Well, within the time permitted. This is what's called a Swiss cheese indictment. It has so many holes that we're going to be identifying and litigating a number of motions that we're going to file on First Amendment grounds, on the fact that President Trump is immune as president from being prosecuted in this way.
Do you have a ballpark figure of when you'd be ready for trial?
Well, I can tell you that in 40 years of practicing law, on a case of this magnitude, I've not known a single case to go to trial before 2 or 3 years.
Understood.